So what we do, I'll put this up. Look, do you want to be Courtney? Are you okay to be
Yeah.
Courtney?
Yeah.
And I'll need a bit of help because I don't have the case right in front of me off the top of my head. But Courtney's the mum who goes away, comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
So I'd start with something like, if I'm going to present this back to the client, I'd start by saying something like, welcome back in today, Courtney. Thank you for coming in last week, so yada, right? And at some point after the preamble, I'd say, okay, look, I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail today about the problems you've been having with your sons and your husband. I've got some stuff here I want to present to you. Is it okay if I draw some stuff on the board and kind of run you through how I think it might be working? And just kind of make sure we're on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay, so so you mentioned last week that this problem kind of starts when you first get back from a business trip, is that right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put up here like business return trip sort of thing, right? And you were telling me last week during the assessment that you have a lot of thoughts about like not feeling like you're present enough and sort of feeling, thoughts like, I should have been there, I've missed things. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of shoulds and what I think I should be doing.
So like, for example, should have,
I should be there, I'm missing out.
Good, thank you. Missing out. Right, now, at that point, right, as soon as I've got some thoughts on the wall, I would just ask for more and just clarify. So, okay, so we've got, things like I should have been there, missing out. Were there others that we might have missed? Any other ones that come to mind that we perhaps didn't get from before?
Just that, like I'm a bad mother for missing out. My motor plane don't like me anymore.
Okay, yeah, good. I mean, not good that that felt the thing.
And
Don't
what
say
if
that.
my husband's really stressed and he doesn't like me anymore? What if they don't want to talk to me?
What a good client, but don't want to talk. Okay. Great. I think we've got a good number of examples there. Are there any other important ones we might need to get down? Do we feel okay with those for the moment? Yes. All right. For clarification, most clients are not normally that free flowing. But no, thank you, Shane. Good. And then I'm like, okay. And you mentioned that these make you feel some stuff in here.
Yeah.
I think we talked about, you sort of said that you were feeling kind of guilty was one that came to mind. And when we felt guilty, like there was some stuff happening in your body. You need to bring up the case, though, guys. Someone help me out. I can't quite exactly recall.
I get really upset. I cry a lot.
Cry a lot. There we go. Cool. As a pro tip, when you're doing it, make sure you're super familiar with the content. Good. So we cry a lot. Were there any others?
I just cry a lot because I just feel really sad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, you mentioned those physical sensations, like you're feeling sick in the stomach, the nausea, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, very good. Yeah, and my muscles really sore all the time, and I got carpal tunnel and stuff.
Okay, good. I mean,
Just add that one in. In the thesis.
Good. And again, we would just ask, and just at each stage, you say, okay, so we've got a bit of a flavour here. Were there any other kind of things we might have missed last week? Anything does that feel okay, like a neat description of what's there? Or?
Yeah.
It's okay? So we're sort of talking about like a crying a lot, feeling sad, feeling guilty, feeling like you missed out, kind of stuff. And I think from memory you then said that there's some stuff that you do to kind of make you feel better, to kind of deal with that. So you spend like a lot of time with the boys?
Yeah, I make sure that I'm there when I am there, that I'm there for everything.
Yeah.
And I want everything to be perfect. So I clean up after them all the time, and I take them everywhere, and I ask them if they want snacks all the time.
Alright, good. Snacks in particular? I don't remember that one from last year. It was like what kind of snacks? Like just chips and lollies? Food?
Yeah, they like chips. So I buy them just like stacks of chips.
And if they say yes, you'll get it for them.
Or yeah, if they say they like one thing, then I'll go buy like every variation of it just to to make sure in case
Gotcha.
there might be
So, like,
something, because I'm
really-
not there.
So just to clarify, so I guess if they said they like snakes, you buy like the sour snakes, the regular snake, the Allen's ones,
Allen's,
the pythons,
confectionery, the
all
whole
the thing. Cool. Like super snack.
snack monster.
Snack monster. Put that phrase up there.
The snack monster.
Snack monster. Perfect. And is there anything else that you're doing? Because again, I just want to make sure it's been a week. I want to make sure I've heard and understood. Is there anything else that might be happening there that helps at all?
I asked them if they're okay.
I'll ask. Okay. Yeah. Oh. God, I'm getting old. I can't get back up. Good. Okay. And we have a pretty neat coverage there. We've covered most of it. All right. So what we're saying is that you go on the trip, you return from the trip, we have these kind of thoughts that come into mind, things like, I should have been there, I've been missing out on a bad mum. What if they don't like me? What if, everything's there okay?
Yeah.
That makes us feel kind of guilty, you get very unhappy, we cry, there's some muscle stuff, it's causing some carpal tunnel, perhaps from all the snack purchasing. The worst, because you've got to do the self-checkout now. And so kind of in response to that, we're trying to spend a lot of time with the boys. We really want to be there and be present and kind of really get invested. And you're going above and beyond, like amazing. Like it's a sign of a really good mum, really wanting to do everything you can for her. But then you mentioned, like, something happens, this doesn't work so well, or something happens with the guys.
Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't always work because they call me like a helicopter mum,
Right.
and I think they're telling me that I'm embarrassing.
Alright. So I'm just going to put up here another little environment, like this is not really you, but it's something that's happening around you, so that the boys actually say, look, mum, enough, too much, you're sort of hovering kind of thing,
Yeah.
you're being embarrassing. Is there anything else they say? Or even anything they do, maybe?
Yeah, they're just a bit like, go away.
Go away. And what happens after that?
I usually cry again.
Okay, so that kind of goes back up to here.
Yeah, it makes me feel that I am being a bad mum because they don't want to be around me.
Okay.
Again, it'll pick up again.
So when they say this kind of stuff, do these thoughts up here feel more real?
Yeah.
Perhaps. And
Yeah.
so then we feel worse,
Yeah.
and then we kind of do even more.
Yeah.
And does this kind of cycle back around? Like, what happens? Does it eventually end? Does it reach a crisis or something?
Yeah, I usually I go back to my husband and I just break down and then he has to, I just break down again.
All right. So it sounds like there might be like a bit of a repeat here, perhaps.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I might even get a different colour. Just reckon at some point in the future, somewhere, it kind of leads off to a new thing. And so are there like new thoughts or worse kind of feelings, perhaps?
Yeah, I feel like maybe sometimes I feel like I'm not making anyone's life better.
Yeah.
Like I keep trying and nothing's working, so maybe I should just not be there.
Okay. And when you say shouldn't be there or should not be there, are we talking like you want to physically go back overseas, or are we talking like you don't want to be alive anymore?
Yeah, I don't want to be alive.
Okay. Now, as a pro tip, just changing the job present, the client revealed suicidal intentions during this, you would probably change tack. Maybe put this on pause and go do a risk assessment and some other stuff and then kind of come back. Let's imagine for the moment, because we're trying to demonstrate it's already gone a bit scary, that we hold no, not your fault. It's my fault for not knowing Courtney well enough. But we just make a note of that. We might finish this and then chase that down afterwards before the session. We'd say, okay, shouldn't be like, and then how do you kind of handle that? Like, what do you do about those thoughts?
I go tell my husband.
Yeah. And what happens after that? What does he say?
He just sits with me for a while and tells me I'm being silly and that, everyone does love me and that I am a good mum.
Yeah. And how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like maybe I am being silly, but then sometimes maybe it just creeps back in that it is actually real and I am still a bad mum.
All right. So it kind of sounds like the hubby, Mick, is providing like a temporary sense of okay, like it's like, it's okay for now.
Yeah.
But then somewhere perhaps at the next trip or the next thing it kind of creeps back in here somewhere and we're sort of in this cycle. Is that roughly accurate? Have I missed anything? Right, if we run through it again, so what we're saying is you know, this kind of starts at the business trip. We come back, these thoughts kind of kick into your brain. It makes us feel very uncomfortable and anxious. And so naturally what we want to do is we want to spend lots of time with the boys, we want to go out of our way to be there with them, be snack monster, be super mum. But kind of like ironically the boys then saying, look, it's too much, we're too close, because they're 14, 16 now kind of.
Yeah, they're teenagers.
Yeah, so they're sort of going, look, you know, I need some private time, like I need some space to myself. That is kind of making these thoughts worse, and we kind of go around in a bit of a loop here. At some point it gets really uncomfortable, we start thinking like, oh, I shouldn't even be here. You know what I mean? And at that point we think, okay, I've got to talk to hubby, this is getting a bit out of control. He provides like a touchstone, a grounding. It helps for a little while, but then perhaps at the next trip or later on down the track we might end up doing this again. Is that a rough outline of what we've got?
Yeah, and also I think that I'm thinking those thoughts under that that already starts before the business trip as well.
Okay, so maybe
And
I
on
should
the
put.
business trip.
So maybe I should put them over here like a separate box, or perhaps down here somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's what you
Yep, have that one off and have some other thoughts along here as well. And we might just make a note like bad mum.
Yeah.
Thoughts here also. And that might feed into this directly and or via the business trip.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, can I just point, excellent ad there, thank you, Shelley, for just like that, Shannon, sorry. Just like you're doing there, someone says, oh, I think also, you just go, okay, cool, thank you for the opportunity, rub it out, adjust it, exactly whatever the client tells you. You don't go, oh really, but last week you told me, you know, you just move to adjust as it sits, right? So this is it's a little bit messy. It's not the world's best graph ever drawn, right? But we've got a rough idea of what's going on for this person. Yeah. Did that work okay? Have we missed anything there? Yeah. How did we find that? Can we see how this kind of works?
Yep.
So, you know, you will have information in front of you that you've gathered. You're going to go ahead and draw it up however it kind of suits. You're just going to consistently check back with the client as you do so. They're going to tell you it's not right, it's right. You're just going to adjust it to suit. Did you see what I meant there about the we statements throughout? I didn't say stuff like, so when you get these thoughts, you do this, you do that. I said, so like when we get these thoughts, we feel these things we naturally want to. Do you get what I mean? Like it just makes it that bit more us versus the thing, and it doesn't even feel like it's any different. Gabriella's like, did he say we?
I didn't even notice.
That's the point. Yeah, you didn't even notice it because it just naturally feels like we're going through a thing. Yeah? Well, that might not. And it's different for every client. So if a client kind of is just wrinkling their nose at you saying we, just say I, or say you, or whatever it might be. Happy with
You
this?
should be able to gauge whether
Yeah.
the client's into the we or like.
Yeah. You'll gauge whether they're into the we, or the Xbox or the PlayStation or whatever. No, you'll be able to tell because you'll be saying this stuff, and it'll either sit right with them or it won't, and they'll say, yeah, I'm happy with that, or you know.
Like they'll tell you if they're not. If they keep saying, why do you keep saying we? This is my problem.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, you're not there with me.
Yeah, then you go, you're quite right, Sorry about that. Let me just adjust that. So what
Yeah.
you would do, is that right? You would do this very good.
Yeah, then they'll be like, yeah.
Yeah. In my experience, most people don't do that though. Most people, like, as a general rule, I'm not saying you're right, most people...
Oh no, I'm sure most people don't. Just like I can imagine like certain.
Yeah, but just like, so, you know, most folk, we like the idea that someone else has done the same thing. So it's like, you know, we like that inclusion, that normalization, that validation that other people have the same kind of fears and insecurities. It's like you're sort of peeling back the skin. I'm a bit vulnerable too. But anyway, for the moment, do we happy with this hit? Is this all right? Pop this up. So,